Good morning. Warmer than normal weather this week is pushing field and crop conditions throughout much of the nation's midsection and in Dixie. Individual states are starting to release weekly crop progress reports. Like in Texas, NASS says winter wheat is 9% excellent. Good and fair categories both sit at 24%. In Oklahoma, over 60% is good to excellent. And in Kansas, 8% is excellent, 45% is good. As the crop starts to break dormancy, many wheat growers are reporting better conditions, leaving them optimistic about yields. Recently, Ag Day's Michelle Rook talked with growers from across the wheat belt at this year's Commodity Classic in Nashville, Tennessee.
The prospects for this year's wheat crop are much improved over a year ago, when drought in the southern plains led to a below normal crop in Texas.
Last year, as I recall, we were about 40% of normal across the state. This year we're about 50% of normal starting out on the wheat crop.
And he says those better ratings are a result of recent rains in the southern 2/3 of the state.
Mainly this area that's remained dry is an area west of Abilene, Texas. And so all those in central and eastern Texas, they've got some really good prospects if they continue to get the moisture.
In Kansas, the southern 2/3 of the state was dry going into the winter, but conditions have also improved there.
We have been extremely dry south of what we call Interstate 70, which is 2/3 of the state, and they were extremely dry. They've had some rain. They're looking much better.
And farther north in Kansas, the winter wheat looks even better, despite some persistent areas of drought.
Northwest Kansas is looking good. Northeast Kansas is looking pretty good. And the southern part is the wheat is up and looking pretty good. But, you know, we're in a drought area, have been for some time.
In Colorado, wheat producers say they had nearly ideal planting conditions this fall, so the crop went into dormancy in better shape than the fall of 2010.
In 2010, we had 17% of the Colorado wheat crop was in good to excellent condition. This year it's 50%, so it's a big improvement over the year before.
And so they're hoping that translates into big yields at harvest.
We've had a little bit of an open winter, not a lot of moisture until here in February, and we've had quite a bit of moisture and some good snow cover, so we're cautiously optimistic that we're going to have another good crop.
Not only are the prospects for the wheat crop looking much better than they did a year ago, acreage is also expected to be higher than 2011.
The total plantings is up about 5 or 6% from last year. But last year was about 10% below because the price of cotton and other commodity crops were higher, so that induced farmers to plant less wheat.
Wheat is the crop of choice because of the dry weather, and it takes less moisture. So more people plant wheat.
I would say it's slightly up just because we had such good conditions in the fall to seed in.
And it's not just winter wheat acreage that's up. USDA is expecting more spring wheat, which they have figured into their 58 million acre baseline projection for 2012.
On the spring wheat crop perspective, because that's the first crop of the spring to be normally planted, we're hopeful that we'll be able to pick up some acreage in that spring wheat area.
That increase will come largely in the Dakotas and Minnesota. These areas have been dry since last fall, and with fewer prevent plant acres, that will induce more wheat to be planted.
I would bet there will be, yes, because those PP acres that weren't planted last year likely will be planted to winter wheat, or spring wheat, excuse me.
And even though wheat prices are lower compared to a year ago, producers are still optimistic about a profitable year ahead.
I don't think we're going to see the highs that we saw last year, of course, but we're hoping it'll still be good and keep us in business over our input costs, which are continuing to rise.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for Ag Day.
Thanks, Michelle. Growers with high salt levels in their soil may be excited about research out of Australia. Scientists crossed commercial durum wheat with an ancient variety, creating a salt-tolerant plant. Field trials show a boost in yields of 25%. High salinity is a problem in about 1/5 of the world's farmland. And down south near the ocean, U.S. growers are battling the early appearance of stripe rust. In Arkansas, state officials say the size of the infection doubled to 17 counties in just 1 week. Warm, wet weather and strong southerly winds is likely to lead to infections further north. In Louisiana, experts say scout often and spray early.
Kind of keep an eye on them, make sure they don't have too much disease in there. If not, then they may look at having to spray some fungicide.
Ed Dwidwell says wheat in Louisiana is past the boot and heading stages. He says a return to freezing weather could devastate the crop.